All right. Ready to dive deep into John D. Rockefeller?
Sounds good.
You wanted to understand how he became, well, such a titan of industry.
Yeah.
And these excerpts you sent from The Laws of Human Nature, Robert Greene's book,
No.
they paint a fascinating picture, almost like a psychological thriller, you know?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think most people see Rockefeller and they just think ruthless.
Hmm.
But Greene gives us this framework for understanding his actions and human nature in general
Yeah.
through this idea of sophisticated aggression.
Hmm.
So we're not just talking business tactics here.
No, no.
We're going deeper
Much cheaper.
into the psychology of power.
Yeah.
Like, how did someone without, I don't know, extraordinary talent or intelligence
Yeah.
rise to become the world's first billionaire?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, and it all starts, it seems, with Rockefeller's childhood.
It does.
Greene points out this, well, this incredible irony.
Good.
Rockefeller, this guy obsessed with control, with order.
Yeah.
He chose to conquer the oil industry.
One of the most chaotic and unpredictable fields, well, imaginable at the time.
You got it, one of the most.
So, I mean, was he drawn to that chaos on some level? Like, subconsciously?
It's interesting, isn't it? Greene suggests that might be the case.
Trying to tame the very thing that frightened him most.
That's the idea.
See, his father was a con artist.
That's right.
In and out of their lives,
Mm-hmm.
leaving the family in constant financial turmoil.
A lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, and that instilled in young John this deep craving for stability,
Do you see how that works?
which showed up in some interesting ways.
How so?
He became, like, meticulous about accounting,
Oh, right.
almost like imposing order on his ledgers.
Yeah.
It brought him a sense of control, right? In this world that felt so unpredictable.
I see. Like a coping mechanism almost.
Yeah, so do you think those meticulous accounting habits,
Mhm.
they served a dual purpose?
Oh, absolutely.
It's a good business practice, obviously.
But also maybe a psychological thing?
For sure.
Like a way to cope.
Greene suggests exactly that.
Wow.
Those perfectly balanced books. For Rockefeller, they were more than just good business.
Yeah.
It was a way for him to quell that anxiety, stemming from that chaotic childhood.
So I'm already seeing him in a new light.
Mhm.
But let's get into how he actually took down his rivals, right? Greene talks about this thing called the aggressor's narrative,
Okay.
which seems key to understanding how Rockefeller justified his cutthroat actions.
Right, and this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Rockefeller, despite being ruthless,
Yeah.
he wasn't like some mustache-twirling villain.
No.
No, he deeply believed he was serving a higher purpose.
Okay.
Greene argues that he actually constructed a narrative fueled by his religious beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
that his pursuit of power was about bringing order
Mm-hmm.
and cheap oil to the masses.
Okay. So he's not just a businessman, he's a crusader.
In his mind, yeah.
That takes serious self-belief to pull that off.
It does, and it reminds us that we all create narratives to justify our actions.
Right.
Right?
Mhm.
It's a very basic human need
Yeah.
to see ourselves as the heroes of our own story, even if those stories, they might mask less noble motivations.
Oh, for sure.
And in Rockefeller's case, it seems like this narrative, it allowed him to reconcile those tactics with his conscience.
Huh.
It helped him gain public support even.
Wow. Some serious mental gymnastics.
It is.
But let's get to the tactics.
Okay.
How did he actually outmaneuver his competition?
Right. So Greene goes into some fascinating examples
Mhm.
of how Rockefeller mastered this art of psychological warfare,
Oh, wow.
analyzing and exploiting his rivals' weaknesses to his advantage.
Okay, like who? Give me an example.
Take Maurice Clark, his first business partner.
Oh.
Clark was brilliant,
Mhm.
but arrogant and impatient.
A hothead.
A classic hothead.
Yeah.
And Rockefeller, he used that impatience against him, maneuvering him into a position where he just impulsively sold his share of their refinery
Oh, wow.
at a bargain price.
So it wasn't just luck, right?
No.
Or being in the right place at the right time?
No.
It sounds like he engineered these situations to play to his advantage.
He was a master at that.
And this pattern, it repeats
It does, yeah.
with other rivals?
With many of them.
Okay, like who else?
Colonel Oliver Payne, another refinery owner.
Okay.
He had a weakness, vanity,
Vanity, huh?
susceptibility to flattery.
Oh, interesting.
So Rockefeller, he appealed to his ego.
I see.
offered him prestigious positions within Standard Oil, showered him with financial incentives,
Okay.
effectively neutralizing a potential threat.
So it wasn't just about brute force. It was about understanding, like, human psychology.
Yes.
And using it as a weapon.
Precisely.
It's almost like it feels like he had this uncanny ability to make his opponents feel rushed, pressured. And then they would make decisions that benefited him.
Exactly. He could stay calm and rational while everyone else was losing their cool.
This is making me rethink some of my own interactions.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? Has I been manipulated?
It makes you wonder.
Or maybe I was the manipulator.
It happens to all of us.
Yeah.
It raises a good point, though, this deep dive. It's not just about Rockefeller.
Right.
It's about understanding these forces
at
play in all human interactions. And Green argues that aggression, it isn't just about these grand schemes.
Right.
It exists on a spectrum.
A spectrum.
And understanding where we fall on that spectrum,
Yeah.
that's crucial.
So tell me more about that spectrum.
Right.
What are the different types, and how do they show up in, our everyday lives?
Okay, so Green identifies 3 main types.
Okay.
The chronic aggressors, like Rockefeller.
Mm-hmm.
They're driven by this relentless need for power and control.
Okay.
Then there's the passive aggressors.
Yep.
They use more subtle tactics, indirect tactics, to get what they want.
And a third type.
And then there are those who internalize their aggression, turning it inward, often sabotaging their own success.
So where do we go from here? How do we even identify these different types of aggressors? And more importantly, how do we protect ourselves from their tactics?
Good questions.
This feels really relevant, especially today.
Oh, it is.
It feels like subtle manipulation is everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And this is where Green's insights are so valuable.
Okay.
He provides this framework for understanding not just Rockefeller,
Right.
but those subtle power dynamics that shape our interactions with everyone, really.
Yeah, with bosses, with coworkers, family. Okay, I'm hooked.
Good.
Let's break down these different types of aggression.
Sure.
Starting with this sophisticated aggressor.
Okay.
What sets them apart from the more in-your-face types?
Well, Green argues that sophisticated aggressors,
Yeah.
they're masters of disguise.
Oh, interesting.
They cloak their aggression behind this veneer
Yeah.
of politeness, of reason.
Uh-huh.
It makes it harder to detect their true intentions.
So like the wolf in sheep's clothing.
Exactly.
They seem charming, maybe even helpful.
On the surface.
But underneath, it's that same primal need.
For dominance.
Yeah.
For control.
So how do we spot them?
Well, Green gives us some clues.
Okay.
They're often more concerned with power, with winning, than the actual quality of their work.
Okay.
They constantly need to prove their superiority.
Yeah.
And will go to great lengths to undermine perceived rivals.
Wow.
And most importantly, maybe they are masters of manipulation.
Manipulation, huh?
Yeah, they'll use these subtle tactics to get others to do their bidding.
So it's fascinating and terrifying at the same time.
Isn't it?
Makes you wonder how many of these wolves are out there.
It does.
Disguised as, I don't know, colleagues, friends, mentors even.
That's the challenge.
Yeah, and it's why Green spends so much time on this idea of
Passive aggression.
Yeah.
And all its different strategies.
And it resonates with people, right? I mean, let's face it, passive aggression is rampant in our society. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's dive into that world of passive aggression.
Yeah.
What are some of the common tactics that these subtle manipulators use? And more importantly, what are Green's tips for dealing with them?
Okay, well, let's start with one of the most common tactics.
Okay.
Green calls it subtle superiority.
Subtle superiority, okay.
It's all about these little power plays designed to make you feel inferior without them explicitly saying so.
Oh, okay.
So think like chronic lateness.
Oh, yeah.
Intentional forgetfulness. Constantly offering unsolicited advice.
Oh, I know that one.
You do.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, my time is more valuable than yours, or I know better than you, but they don't actually come out and say it.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
Sometimes these power plays, they aren't even conscious.
Really?
It could be a manifestation of deeper insecurities.
Oh, wow.
Or anxieties that the passive aggressor is projecting.
So not always about malice.
Not necessarily.
Or a conscious desire to control.
Right.
It could be a defense mechanism.
Could be.
A way to mask their own vulnerabilities.
Exactly.
Huh. That's a really interesting perspective.
It is.
It highlights, I guess, the importance of empathy, right?
It does.
When dealing with this kind of behavior.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we should just tolerate it or excuse it.
No, of course not.
But understanding the psychology can help us respond in a more...
constructive way.
Yeah, constructive way.
Yeah.
Okay, so subtle superiority is just the tip of the iceberg here.
It is.
What are some other common passive-aggressive tactics that Green outlines?
Oh.
And how do we deal with them? I'm all ears.
All right, let's move on to sympathy.
Sympathy.
It's another common strategy.
Okay.
This is where the passive aggressor plays the perpetual victim.
Okay.
Constantly highlighting their woes,
right.
their misfortunes to elicit attention, favors, control,
even.
even...
I say my complain about...
Oh, their health, their job, their relationships.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything to garner that sympathy.
Ugh, I know some people like that.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. You want to be supportive.
Right.
But it's like they're feeding off that sympathy.
They are.
And it never ends.
It doesn't.
So what do we do? How do we deal with these, what do you call them?
Emotional vampires.
Yeah, emotional vampires.
Well, Green really emphasizes boundaries here.
Boundaries, okay.
We can be compassionate, offer support.
Yeah.
But we don't have to be their therapist.
Right.
Or their emotional punching bag.
Yeah.
We have a right to protect our own mental and emotional well-being.
That's so important.
It is.
It's easy to get sucked into their vortex.
It is.
Of negativity, right.
Mm.
But we have to remember that
it's not our responsibility.
We're not responsible.
To fix their problems.
Yeah.
Or constantly cater to their needs.
Right. Right.
And sometimes the kindest thing we can do
is
to encourage them to get professional help.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Or offer support in a way that doesn't enable that victim mentality.
Yeah. Okay, I'm already rethinking some of my relationships.
Oh, yeah.
There are definitely a few people where I need to set some firmer boundaries. So, subtle superiority and sympathy.
Mm-hmm.
Two common tactics. What else?
Let's talk about dependency.
Dependency. Okay.
Another insidious tactic.
All right.
This is the classic bait and switch.
Okay.
They shower you with attention, concern, helpfulness, make you feel, special.
Yeah, indebted.
Indebted, right? But then slowly the dynamic shifts.
Oh, okay.
They start using that debt as leverage, manipulating you into doing things you don't want to do.
Right.
Or making you feel like you constantly have to be there for them.
Yeah, regardless of my own needs.
Exactly.
It's like they weave this invisible web.
They do.
And you get caught before you even realize it's happening.
Yeah.
I've definitely fallen for that one before.
It's a common trap.
It is.
And Green's advice is to be wary of anyone who is, overly eager to help or shower you with attention, especially early on in a relationship.
Right.
It could be genuine kindness, of course.
Yeah.
But it could also be a sign that they're trying to create that sense of obligation.
Okay.
That dependency.
So red flags are waving.
They are.
What about those who use, what's it called?
Insinuating doubt.
Yes, insinuating doubt as their weapon of choice.
That's another one.
How do we deal with, the subtle digs, the backhanded compliments that leave you feeling undermined?
Right.
Insecure.
It's tricky.
It is.
Because it often flies under the radar.
Yeah.
They might say things like, oh, that's a nice dress. It hides your hips well.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Or you're so lucky you got that promotion. They must have been desperate.
It's so infuriating.
It is.
And the worst part is if you call them out, they'll act like you're being overly sensitive.
Too sensitive.
Yeah, or misinterpreting.
Misinterpreting their intentions.
Their intentions, exactly.
So Green suggests a counter strategy.
Okay, I like this.
Agree with them.
Agree with them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If they offer faint praise, accept it wholeheartedly.
I see.
If they give a backhanded compliment, thank them for their concern.
Oh, I love that.
It robs them of that satisfaction.
Yeah.
Of seeing you squirm.
It's like saying, I see right through you.
Exactly.
But I'm not playing your game.
You got it.
Oh, adding that to my arsenal of passive-aggressive defense tactics.
I like it.
Now, what about...
What about blame shifting?
Yes, blame shifting.
That's a classic.
It feels like a classic.
Yeah.
How do we deal with someone who just constantly deflects responsibility, makes you feel like you're crazy?
Makes you feel like you're the problem?
Paranoid.
Green stresses the importance of trusting your own feelings and perceptions.
Yeah.
It's easy to doubt yourself
It is.
When someone's so convincing with the blame shifting. But if you constantly feel like you're walking on eggshells or second-guessing your reality, that's a huge red flag.
It is.
So you got to recognize those patterns and not let them gaslight you.
But how do we actually counter it?
He suggests keeping a journal.
Journal, okay.
Documenting their behavior.
Right.
Your reactions.
Okay.
Helps you see the patterns. Confirms that you're not imagining things.
Right.
Provides evidence if you need to confront them.
Oh, that's a good tip.
It's like an objective record
to
counter their subjective reality.
That's it.
Okay, we've covered a lot here.
We have.
Subtle superiority, sympathy, dependency, insinuating doubt, blame shifting.
Yeah.
Is there one more?
There's one more.
Okay.
The passive tyrant.
The passive tyrant.
This is a particularly challenging type.
Oh, how so?
Especially if it's your boss or someone in a position of power over you.
I see.
So think of a boss who's constantly chaotic, demanding, but never gives clear instructions.
Right.
You're constantly trying to anticipate their needs.
Walking on eggshells?
Walking on eggshells.
Terrified of making a mistake.
Exactly.
Yeah, and any attempt to please them.
It just seems to backfire.
It backfires, yeah.
Because that's the point.
The point is to backfire.
To keep you off balance.
Oh, wow.
Dependent on their approval.
Okay.
They might use passive-aggressive tactics, guilt trips.
Yeah.
The silent treatment.
Veiled threats.
Even.
To maintain control.
Yeah, to make you feel like you're always one step behind.
Okay, so how do we deal with these passive tyrants? It feels like.
Yeah, this is tough.
Confronting them could make it worse.
It could.
Right.
Yeah, and Green acknowledges that.
Okay.
But he offers some advice.
That's right.
He says, instead of focusing on any positive things they might do or say, think only of their manipulations, their harshness.
Right.
Detach emotionally.
Detach emotionally.
From their attempts to control you.
Okay.
Remember, it's not about them.
Right.
It's about you.
It's about me.
Your well-being.
So it's about recognizing that I deserve to be treated.
With respect.
With respect, yeah. Regardless of their position, their authority. And sometimes the only solution
is to walk away.
Yeah.
No job is worth sacrificing your mental and emotional health.
That's true.
These tactics, often they're just a reflection of the passive tyrant's own insecurities.
Need for control.
It's not about me.
It's about them.
It's about them.
And that can be incredibly empowering.
It is. It's about taking back control, realizing I have choices.
Exactly.
And speaking of choices, Green offers this really powerful perspective on how we can reclaim our own natural aggression and channel it productively.
Yes.
This brings us back to Rockefeller.
It does.
He was obviously a master of aggression.
He was.
But Green seems to suggest that we can all learn to harness this powerful force for good.
He does.
Right.
Absolutely.
So it's not about becoming aggressive in a negative sense.
No.
But about embracing our assertive energy and directing it towards our goals.
Precisely.
This feels like a crucial part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Because we spent so much time on the negative aspects of aggression. So what about the good?
So it's about balance.
Okay.
Green acknowledges that aggression, when it's uncontrolled or misdirected, can be destructive.
Of course.
But he also argues it's a fundamental part of human nature.
Right.
And when channeled correctly, it can be a powerful force for good.
For good. Okay.
Creation, innovation, positive change.
All right. I'm intrigued. Let's dive into this.
Okay.
This concept of controlled aggression.
Controlled aggression.
How do we reclaim those qualities that we often suppress, like ambition, persistence, fearlessness, and even anger?
Right.
And then use them to our advantage.
It's a process.
It is. Where do we even begin?
Well, Green provides this framework for harnessing what he calls the 4 aggressive virtues.
Aggressive virtues, okay.
Ambition, persistence, fearlessness, anger.
All right, let's start with ambition.
Okay.
What does he say about that?
So he encourages us to revisit those childhood dreams.
Oh, okay.
You know, the ones we might have tucked away.
Yeah.
Remember that burning passion you had for something before the world told you to be realistic?
Right.
Tap into that.
Okay.
Adapt those dreams to your current reality. But make those aspirations specific. As specific as possible.
So instead of vaguely wishing for, I don't know, success or recognition,
Yeah.
We define what those terms actually mean.
Exactly.
For us.
Yes.
Give our ambition a target.
A target. I like that.
To aim for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once you have that target,
yeah.
persistence becomes the key.
Persistence.
Greenia uses figures like Thomas Edison, Marie Curie, even Zen master Hakuin.
Wow.
To illustrate this,
yeah.
they all face setbacks.
I'm sure.
Doubts, even ridicule.
Yeah.
But they just kept going.
They kept going.
Striking blow after blow until they achieved their aims.
It's inspiring, but it's also a bit intimidating.
Is it?
Yeah. You know, makes you wonder if you have that kind of unwavering dedication.
I see.
Within you.
Well, it's not about being superhuman. Green reminds us that persistence isn't brute force alone.
Right.
It's strategy, too.
Okay.
It's about learning from your mistakes, finding new angles of attack when one fails, constantly adjusting your approach.
But the key is that inner belief.
Yes.
That you will succeed.
Got it.
So it's about quieting that inner voice.
That negative voice.
Yeah, the one that whispers, what if you fail?
Yeah.
What if you're not good enough?
That voice.
Yeah.
That voice is often fueled by fear.
Fear.
And that's why Green encourages us to cultivate fearlessness.
Fearlessness.
This isn't about being a daredevil.
Right.
But about steadily stepping outside your comfort zone.
I like that. So start small.
Yeah.
Speak up more in meetings.
Exactly.
Set a boundary with a friend, you know, one you've been letting take advantage.
Right.
Yeah. Each time you're proving to yourself.
Exactly.
The world doesn't end when you assert yourself.
It doesn't.
And those small acts of courage, they
do it on one another.
They build on each other.
And before you know it, you're taking on bigger challenges.
Yeah, like starting that business you've been dreaming of.
Right, right.
Or standing up for a cause you believe in.
Even if it's unpopular.
Even if it's unpopular.
It's like reclaiming that sense of agency.
It is.
That we lose, I think, as adults.
We do.
Remembering that we have the power.
The power.
To shape our own lives.
To shape our own lives, yeah.
Okay, so we've covered ambition, persistence, fearlessness. What about anger? That feels like a tricky one.
Yeah, it is a tricky one.
Yeah.
And Green tackles it head on.
He does.
He does.
Okay.
He argues that anger, like ambition, has gotten a bad rap.
It has.
We're told to suppress it.
Right.
To always be nice, avoid conflict.
Right.
But anger, it's a natural human emotion.
It is.
And it can be a powerful source of energy.
I've definitely felt that energy.
Yeah.
But it usually leaves me feeling, I don't know, out of control.
Right. And then I regret it later.
Well, that's because there's a difference.
Oh, okay.
Between what Green calls toxic anger.
Toxic anger.
Anger and controlled anger.
Okay, yeah.
Toxic anger.
Yeah, yeah.
It's often irrational.
Right.
Directed at, vague enemies or scapegoats.
Yeah, yeah.
And ultimately destructive.
Okay.
But controlled anger.
Yeah.
It's focused.
Yeah.
Realistic. It's aimed at the actual source of the problem.
Okay.
And it's used as fuel for positive change.
So it's not about denying the anger. It's about understanding the root of it.
Exactly.
And then choosing how to channel it.
You got it.
Okay.
Green even encourages us to use anger in creative work.
Oh, interesting.
Think about protest music.
Yeah, yeah.
Powerful novels that expose injustice. Even stand-up comedy.
Right.
That tackles these uncomfortable truths.
Anger gives it an edge.
It does.
Yeah.
This makes me think about how often we're told to, to be positive all the time.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But maybe suppressing those so-called negative emotions means we're missing out on this wellspring of creative energy.
That's a good point, yeah.
It's about embracing that full spectrum of human emotion.
They're not just the good ones.
Not just the ones that make us feel good, right?
Right.
And this brings us back to the heart of what Green's trying to do.
Yeah.
He argues that understanding human nature is crucial for navigating the world effectively and achieving our goals.
So it's about self-awareness.
It is.
Recognizing our own capacity for aggression.
Yes.
The good and the bad.
The good and the bad.
And being able to see it in others.
Yeah.
So we're not constantly caught off guard.
Exactly. We need to be students of human behavior.
Students of human behavior.
Observe those patterns. The overt ones. The subtle ones.
Right.
Understand that people's actions, they often stem from these deeper motivations.
Deeper than what we see on the surface. This all ties back to Rockefeller, doesn't it?
It does.
He was a master at reading people.
He was.
Understanding those hidden motivations.
Yes. And while we don't need to become master manipulators like him,
right,
being aware of these dynamics
can
help us protect ourselves from those who might exploit our weaknesses.
Okay, this has been incredibly insightful.
Good, I'm glad.
But before we wrap up,
yeah,
there's one more piece I'd like to explore.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about outward aggression,
Right,
the sophisticated and the passive types.
Yeah.
But what about those of us who, tend to internalize our aggression?
Yes.
What does Green say about that?
That's where his concept of the internal saboteur comes in.
The internal saboteur.
It's that voice inside our heads.
Yeah.
That tells us we're not good enough.
Right.
That we'll fail. That we should just play it safe, not rock the boat.
I know that voice.
You do.
Yeah.
That's the voice of fear, of self-doubt.
It is. And it's powerful.
It is powerful.
Holding us back from pursuing our dreams, living our lives to the fullest.
It can be so frustrating.
It is.
And often it's a result of societal pressures.
Okay.
To conform, to be nice, to not stand out.
Right, right.
But Green, he encourages us to challenge those beliefs.
Okay.
To reclaim our natural assertiveness.
Yeah.
And use it to our advantage.
It's like we've been trained to be passive.
In a way, yeah.
To suppress our natural drive.
And
then we wonder why we feel unfulfilled or stuck.
Exactly.
So Green suggests that by embracing those qualities, we often suppress ambition, persistence, fearlessness, even anger.
Yeah.
We can silence that internal saboteur.
That's the idea.
And unleash our true potential.
Unleash it.
It's like we need to rewild ourselves.
Rewild. I like that.
Reclaim those primal instincts that have been, domesticated out of us.
Domesticated.
But how do we do that without, becoming a bull in a china shop?
Right. Well, it's about finding that balance.
Balance.
Like with everything else.
Okay.
It's not about being a ruthless tyrant like Rockefeller.
No, of course not.
But understanding that those qualities, ambition, persistence, fearlessness, even anger, they're not weaknesses, they're strengths.
Okay.
They're what allow us to create, to innovate, to lead, to make a positive impact.
So how do we cultivate this balance? How do we channel these powerful forces without letting them consume us?
Green offers some concrete steps.
Okay. Like what?
Setting clear, challenging goals that align with our values, developing a strong support system, people who will hold us accountable, and practicing
mindfulness,
self-reflection.
To become aware of our patterns.
Exactly.
So be intentional.
Yes.
Mindful. Create structures that support our growth, help us stay on track.
Got it.
It's about taking ownership of our power and using it responsibly. And this journey, it's ongoing, right? It's not about reaching some destination. It's about constantly evolving. Becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Exactly.
It's like we're learning to walk a tightrope here.
It is. Yeah.
On one side, we've got this potential for achievement, positive change. But on the other, there's that risk of those darker impulses taking over.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It really highlights the need for constant self-awareness, reflection, a willingness to really check our motivations.
So it's not enough to just be like ambitious and persistent.
No.
We also have to make sure we're not like sacrificing our integrity
or
harming others along the way.
That's the key.
Right.
It's about finding that sweet spot where our ambition aligns with our values.
Okay.
And serves a purpose greater than ourselves.
Greater than ourselves, yeah. And having those people around us who will hold us accountable, right?
Absolutely.
Who aren't afraid to call us out.
Yes.
When we're crossing a line.
When we're straying from our path. That's so important.
It is. It's like having a personal board of directors,
I like that.
Guiding us.
Keeping us in check.
Yeah.
And remember, Green, he isn't advocating for a world where everyone's just constantly scheming.
No.
Manipulating each other.
No.
He's just giving us the tools.
To
understand these dynamics.
Right.
So we can navigate them
more effectively.
You create a more, conscious, ethical world.
It's like learning a martial art. It is, a little bit. You don't want to go around picking fights.
No.
But it's good to know how to defend yourself.
If necessary. Exactly. And sometimes the best defense
is awareness.
Yeah.
By understanding those tactics, we can recognize them. Early on.
And not get entangled. Not get entangled.
In their games.
Right.
This has been incredible.
Okay.
I feel like I've gained this whole new perspective.
I'm glad.
On human nature, on my own place in the world.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap up,
yeah,
I want to come back to Rockefeller one last time.
Right.
Green doesn't shy away from the negative consequences, right?
He doesn't.
Of his actions.
Yeah.
The destruction he left
in his wake.
In his wake, yeah. So did he ultimately create more harm than good?
That's a question historians, economists, they're still debating.
They are.
But Green uses Rockefeller's story as this cautionary tale.
Okay.
Reminding us that even the most sophisticated aggressors,
yeah,
they can cause immense harm.
Right.
If their ambition isn't tempered by, ethics, compassion.
It makes you think, what if Rockefeller had channeled that aggressive energy differently?
It does, doesn't it?
Could he have achieved that level of success?
Yeah.
Without those ruthless tactics?
What if he'd focused on, I don't know, innovation, collaboration, creating a more sustainable industry?
Right.
Would he still be remembered as this titan?
Yeah.
Or would he be hailed as a visionary?
A visionary.
Someone who revolutionized not just oil,
right,
but business itself.
Those are questions for the history books.
They are?
But I think the more important question for us is how do we make sure our own ambitions don't come at the expense of others?
Exactly. How do we use this knowledge?
Yeah.
Not to manipulate, to control, but to empower, to elevate ourselves and those around us.
That's the challenge.
It is.
And the opportunity, I think.
An opportunity.
That this deep dive has presented.
Absolutely.
It's a challenge I'm ready to embrace.
Dude.
This has been a real eye-opener. I feel equipped.
Equipped.
Yeah, the whole new set of tools.
That's great.
For navigating this complex world.
It is a complex world.
And harnessing my own inner power,
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Remember, understanding human nature, it's a lifelong pursuit.
It is.
It's about observation, reflection, a willingness to challenge our assumptions, our biases.
And most importantly, I think, it's about remembering that we all have that capacity for both great good and great harm.
Absolutely.
And it's up to us to choose.
It is which path we follow.
This exploration of Rockefeller and the laws of human nature, it's really highlighted, I think, the complexities of ambition, of aggression, this constant interplay between our inner drives and the external world.
It has been a journey.
It has.
And I hope you, our listener, have gained some valuable insights along the way.
I hope so, too.
Remember, knowledge is power.
It is.
But only when used wisely.
And ethically.
And be sure to check out Robert Greene's book.
Yeah, The Laws of Human Nature.
For a more in-depth look at these ideas.
Absolutely. It'll challenge your assumptions.
It will.
And give you a whole new framework. For understanding yourself and the world.
That's right.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.
Keep them buzzing.
And remember, use your newfound knowledge for good.
For good.